Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today's episode is a little bit different, and as will tomorrow's be, as I share my story, and I hope that you learn something from this. So it's interesting to try and consider where to start my story. This is going to be part one of my story, which is the part coming up to the anniversary today of what happened to me. So probably if we go back to, I'm just going to pick a random date, 2010, randomly. At that point in my life, I was married. I had two children. My children were born in 1999 and 2001. So they were quite little still in 2010. And in September of 2010, I took on my first headship of a primary school. And like all my other promotions, I went in super excited. I was going to make a difference. I was finally going to feel like I was good enough. I probably didn't consciously think that, but there was definitely something about I've made it. This is where I'm going to be happy. And maybe even just with that little part of my story, you can start to relate to you seeking your happiness from outside of you. So the school that I took over had in the February of that year, had an satisfactory offset, which sounds all right, but if you're a primary school head teacher at that time, it was not good to be satisfactory. So I went in with the aim of helping my team, supporting the team to get to the school to the good outcome, which is what every school wants, to be graded by Ofsted as good. So that's what I did. Just over 2 years after I took over in the December of 2012, we got the good outcome. The amazing team that I had worked very, very, very hard, but under my leadership, I guess. See how hard I still find to say I did anything at all, but under my leadership, we reached an outcome of good, and you'd think that'd be it, wouldn't you? Yay, I've done it. I've got a school to good from where it was. I've achieved something amazing in life, but still I did not feel okay. Now, it wasn't so long after that my marriage started to majorly deteriorate. It had been in a not good place anyway. I'd spent many years becoming more and more in control of everything that happened in my personal life, keeping control of everything, not being able to give my ex-husband anything to do because I didn't particularly trust him to do things, and that really reached a head in November of 2013 when I asked him to leave. So my marriage broke up, and then I went a little bit crazy, folks, I have to be honest, because fundamentally I was living in a misunderstanding about where my feelings came from. So I was doing lots of things in the outside world to help myself feel okay. Now, I thought I'd feel better when my husband went. It was the right thing to not be with him anymore. However, still didn't feel amazing. So then I started doing more things in the outside world, bearing in mind I'm now a single parent and a full-time head teacher, and and managing everything in the house completely by myself now. I mean, it often felt like I was by myself before, but anyway, so I started to do things to make myself feel better, which included drinking a little more than probably ever had done before, going out a lot more, doing a lot of salsa dancing, and also doing far too much online dating. And then, because I still didn't feel okay, still trying to make myself feel okay with the outside world, still didn't feel okay, then it seemed like a really good idea to take a promotion to a much bigger school with even more, with more to do, because always as a head teacher going into a different school, you see there's lots to do. And so in September 2014, so 10 months after I split from my husband, I took a promotion. And I would say the slippery slope to burnout had probably started quite a way before that, but then it ramped up a notch because then there were a lot more things for me to control in order for me to feel okay, including, 500 children, lots and lots of staff, parents who were, when I took over, not very happy, a new governing, but just all the things that came with my job, alongside still doing all those things to try and make myself feel okay. And it got sillier and sillier and sillier until January 2015, when my sleep started to literally stopped working. My sleep stopped working. My sleep deteriorated to the point where I was sleeping 3 to 5 hours a night, and then working 12 to 16-hour days and managing everything in the house and still doing lots of online dating, still going out the weekend when I could face it. And I started to gradually deteriorate. The major thing I noticed then was that at weekends I just felt terrible. I was tired, I barely functioned. I was getting poorly quite a lot, getting lots of coughs and colds and things, and getting sicker and sicker, all the while not a clue. I had not a clue how ill I had become. It's ridiculous when I think about it, how poorly I was and how little of that I could actually see. So 7 years ago, when I say it out loud, it really does blow my mind, actually, that 7 years have gone by. On the 31st of March 2015, I walked into my office in that primary school on the edge of Leeds, and my computer wouldn't work. Not because it was broken, I didn't need to call tech support, but because I could not bend down and switch it on. I just did not have, the word motivation is the one that comes to mind really. I just did not have the motivation to bend down and start that computer. It was just impossible. It felt impossible. And I walked out of work that day, and until I went back to collect my possessions, I never went back. I didn't go back till after I'd actually resigned. We'll more about on that in tomorrow's episode when we'll do my story part 2. But I was so sick. I went to the doctors that day. Goodness, I don't really know how I drove there, but I went to the doctors and I was diagnosed with severe depression because the symptoms that I had were really very much like depression. I had no motivation. I didn't want to do anything. I was struggling to get out of bed. I was not sleeping. But what perhaps wasn't uncovered until later on was that I actually had suffered an adrenal burnout. So I had been stressed for such a long time that my adrenals couldn't carry on pumping what they needed to pump into my system. And so that they just stopped. Pretty much. They didn't quite stop, because I think that's the end of you if they completely stop, but they were absolutely wrung out. And I spent the next year, well, and beyond that, way further than that, trying to get better, trying to fix myself, I suppose. But it just never really happened. I kept trying to go back to work, kept having conversations about it, and every time I spoke about it, I just felt worse. I felt more wrung out, more tired again, more stressed again. Every time I felt a little bit stressed, I just couldn't do it because my system didn't pump out what ordinarily gets pumped out when you're stressed. So that is part 1. So it is 7 years ago today that I walked out of work and I've went back. More of my story tomorrow, because tomorrow is the anniversary of my resignation 6 years ago. So I look forward to telling you more of my story tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.